Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 1 out of 2 games between Ddraig and Player in round 2 of the second European tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Cheux, and on the Allied side Ddraig is going to be using the 7th Armoured, and on the Axis side Player has chosen the 116th Panzer. Now I have kind of discussed this matchup quite a lot before. I think the 116th on an open range map is one of those divisions that can actually counter the 7th Armoured quite effectively. Because in a max range engagement between a Panzer III that has 3-star veterancy and a Stuart 5 Recon that has 3 veterancy, the Panzer III has a lot more chance of winning due to the Stuart having 8 armor, or 8 AP, versus the 7 armor of the Panzer IIIs, whilst the Panzer III has 10 AP versus the 6 front armor of the Stuart. So at range, naturally, the Panzer III has a pretty damn huge advantage. It's when you get to those closer ranges that the Stuart 5 start to excel, because they have a superior aim time, and that can be taken advantage of in order to find kills due to the range increasing the AP the closer you get. So Player, I think, can definitely control the open ground moving into the early game and possibly throughout the entire game, because as he gets to phase C, he will have Panther Gs at his disposal to clean up what will potentially be 3-star Fireflies. So I think Player has done well to choose the 116th. The only tough part about playing the 116th is their lack of economy compared to the 7th Armoured, and that is something that may be difficult to deal with if Player isn't finding himself like a 2-to-1 KD, and that is already something difficult to ask in such a high tier matchup, because Ddraig and Player both very good at the game. But either way, let's have a quick look at the units that are going down as we move underway. The Desert Rat's going to be moving into the town, supported by a Stuart 5, the command infantry there with the motorised rifles, and a second unit of Desert Rats. There's also a 2-inch carrier following up. To the mid, we see a M5 half-track with the motorised rifles, and on the bottom side, same deal with the Stuart Recce bringing in that recon. On the side of Player, a 259 at the start, supported by the Panzer Grenadiers, a 251 with the Speertroop, and the 232 giving those units veterancy, 3-star Panzer III. Panzer III M has moved down to the bottom side of the town here. That's going to be supported by Panzer Grenadiers, and looks like a defensive deployment from Player, just using the half-track here to hold the front line forwards. We'll have to be cautious of giving a salient over to Ddraig on the top side. On the bottom side though, Player is making quite a bit of ground and sort of falling into this hedgerow trap that generally happens quite often actually. Now an autocar M3 is the purchase of choice here for Ddraig, but if there was another Stuart 5 available, I think I would have preferred to see that, because being behind this tree line with the Stuart 5 is perfect for forcing the close range engagements. And there's only one purchase so far on the top side of the map, so there's no reason why this shouldn't be one for the bottom side of the map, unless Ddraig was panicking to buy something in and didn't quite have the points, the extra 15 points, to afford a Stuart 5. But due to there being no sort of resistance on this bottom side, the 259 and 232 have pushed all the way through. Player was thinking about sending the Panzer III towards the mid, but I'm glad he's bringing that back. Probably spotted the Autocar M3 and wants to engage that at the 1000 meter range with the Panzer IIIM, which would be a lot better at dealing with the Autocar than the 232 or the 259. The Panzer III takes out that Stuart. Cromwell 5 is now on the field, and that can potentially duel with the Panzer IIIM. But if the veteran C is there, the Panzer III should shoot and hit more often than the Cromwell 5 and the Autocar. But it looks like Ddraig is trying to set up for a 2v1, but it's not going to be needed. Boom goes the Panzer III. Autocar M3 gets the job done, and that was a very unfortunate loss there for Player. One thing that we can see though is Player has actually managed to get some Panzer Grenadiers into this compound, which is going to be kind of annoying for Ddraig to get rid of at this point in the game. Player has also managed to get some Panzer Grenadiers to push into this tree line now. So holding himself a +1 early on in the game. Now the half track that brought in these Panzer Grenadiers did get taken out, but we'll have to see where Player goes from here, because he's going to be playing around a Stuart 5, the Staghound, the Cromwell 5 and the Autocar M3, and these units are already starting to add up as more and more of Player's units disintegrate under their fire. So the 259 now gone. One of the Panzer III's already died. Both of these Panzer IIIMs are on the way to the bottom side though. So Player will be hoping that he can counter the movement of Ddraig with these Panzer III's. But honestly, so far, both of these vehicles have been doing very well at range. And that is going to be scary for Player to deal with moving forwards. So engages the Autocar M3, does find the internal fragment. That is very nice. Removes that ammunition from the Autocar and takes it out of action for the time being. Now with the second Panzer III on the way, there's a potential for a double team, either onto the Staghound or onto the Cromwell 5. This Staghound, it has found a shot towards this M5 half track. We'll be blowing that up. Panzer Grenadiers now opening up on this bottom side. Just jumped out of the building briefly. M5 half track now moving up. The Panzerfaust will be used to take that out. Machine guns will open up onto the motorized rifles and pin that very quickly. But we'll have to be careful. That Stuart Remy can do a lot of damage with that 30 cal and 50 cal. We'll have to turn off auto cover to keep those Panzer Grenadiers from moving into the building there. Panzer III has come out. Finds the kill onto the Cromwell 5. Nicely done. Now the 232 going to be engaging the Staghound. That's not an engagement that Player will want to continue unless the Panzer III can take advantage of the distraction. Comes round the corner. Can he find the kill? Not quite. Staghound backs off. Meanwhile on the bottom side, half track gets taken out. Panzer Grenadiers still jumping backwards and forwards, pinning down Ddraig's infantry. Panzer III really going to go on the hunt to finish off this Staghound. Autocar M3 is finding itself resupplied. And I like the way that Ddraig has done this. I've mentioned this before about taking internal fragmented tanks all the way back to spawn, because then you can just bring the Bedford supply straight in and pretty much just get on with the resupply straight away. And then it kind of just acts as a new reinforcing unit that you otherwise wouldn't have had access to should it have got killed on the front line because it had no ammunition. But the Staghound going to try and out-aim the Panzer III, but due to the Panzer III already facing with its turret, that is going to be an engagement that will likely fall in favour of the Panzer III. But the Autocar M3 cleaning up the 232, but the Staghound going down there to the Panzer III. These Panzer Grenadiers did eventually get cleaned up. And, well, while that's all going on, a little bit of aggression coming through from Ddraig. Looking for the kill onto the half-track and does find it. Now just held back by some Speertroop. Panzer 3. Going to try its luck. Gets internal fragmented. 1-5 and autocar combination doing very well indeed. But as we can see, if we zoom out, huge amount of ground is in favour of player. He's sitting on a +2 at the moment, which is pretty hard for Ddraig to deal with. Panzer Grenadiers are cleaning up motorized rifles in the mid and they're just not supported. Half track on the top side is now hitting the motorized rifle leader, and the last thing that Ddraig will want is that to go down, so he's going to be smoking them off. Panzer 3 L's also coming to support, going to take out the half track. So those motorized rifles nearly dead. New Stuart 5 coming in towards his top side, but yeah, the 116th, a pretty good job so far. Hasn't had to counter Stuart 5 so much. Ddraig has focused very much on the Cromwell 5 autocar M3 combination. Not something that's very common. Personally, I think a Stuart 5 still would have been a better idea for if player wanted to get aggressive on the bottom side. But this has worked out for the time being, and maybe it shall continue to. But with player coming down with this Panzer 3 and this other Panzer 3 sitting at close range, I'm pretty sure Ddraig's going to have to be very careful with how he proceeds. The thing is, player is very good at what he does. And here we're going to see him automatically set up his Panzer 3 to hit the autocar. And that worked out very well. He's now going to be microing his way round the old tree here. Look at this. Cue the Benny Hill theme tune. Ddraig gonna try and turn around the other way, but the Panzer 3 may be ready this time around. Already has its turret facing the right way. Okay. Ddraig's had enough. He's going to back off. Meanwhile, further up, we do see the Panzer 3 engaging the autocar M3. Driver wounded. Panzer 3 is going to back off because the Stuart 5 turned up. That was a very amusing play there. Oh, player's going to lose his Panzer 3 surely. Never mind. Oh, the Panzer 3 missed. The Cromwell 5 needs to secure this kill now, and it will. Interesting stuff. So, the Cromwell 5 won there because the Panzer 3 fired at the motorized rifle leader and was reloading. The reloaded shot ended up missing because it got pinned, or at least the morale was damaged. But the original shot onto the autocar M3 was because player had already lined up the shot before it came into line of sight. So really smart, could see it coming because of the Speertroop. Now Panzerwerfer is going to try and pin the Cromwell, ends up taking out the command, which is still decent. Autocar M3 and Stuart 5 take out the Panzer 3 there. But whilst we've been keeping an eye on that, the infantry that got aggressive from Ddraig has been dealt with, and that's left him with a single Stuart Remy holding this front line on the top side. Now it's a +2 for player, but all he has holding this bottom side right now is a single Panzer 3. And due to Ddraig having the autocar here to help as well, there's potential this Panzer 3 will go down, and if it does, then this infantry has the potential to be overran. The reinforcements coming into the town alongside a Cromwell 7. Cromwell 7 is 1-star veteran as well. 11 front armor, 11 AP. Very good for dealing with these Panzer IIIs. Now the Panzer III has been pinned. Autocar does have a little bit of time to engage the Panzer III freely and will find the kill. Panzer Grenadier, is it going to open up and find the kill onto the half track? No, it is not. Put onto return fire. Players waiting for a better target. The Cromwell 5 surely going to open up with that Panzer Grenadier. I just want to see it happen. Okay, it's been spotted. Now the Panzerfaust surely going to fire. Oh, it gets pinned down too quickly. That is huge. Player missed an opportunity there for sure. Meanwhile, Ddraig brings some motorized rifles into the town. They get surrendered in the face of the Flam Panzer. The Flam Panzer is going to be making a push into the town. Motorized rifles, can they hit the Piat? It's very important that they do so. Either that or that the Cromwell 7 finds the kill onto the half track. At the moment, things back to only a +1 for player as he completely loses control of this bottom side. But player's going to be leaving some very nice recon squads behind. That's for sure, as they do not get found. Half track does go down. Flam Panzer, is it going to die to the Cromwell 7? It is. And that is good. That's very important because if that Flam Panzer was still alive, then any infantry engagement could swing well in favour of player very quickly. So now another half track that's going to be found and possibly taken out. This Panzerwerfer has had to completely retreat on the bottom side, has been covered off by a Pak 40. But it seems as though over time player's dominance at range has fallen away from him. Losing Panzer III after Panzer III has really started to make a big difference here. And now maybe the Stuart 5s can come out to play. But lovely kill for the Panzer IIIL, takes out the Cromwell 7. Flam Panzer with the Panzer Grenadier take out the motorized rifles. They're going to continue on towards the field engineers and motorized rifles that have reinforced. Wasp is going to be able to pin the Panzer Grens, but the field engineers taking a beating from the Panzer Grenadiers on the bottom side. This Panzer III is still here and can possibly remove these vehicles, and if it does so, then this Flam Panzer is free to charge on through. But I feel like there's a really nice recovery here for Ddraig. He's brought it all the way back to 49.51. So player no longer making himself any more points, and that is quite a feat, honestly, after the commanding position that player actually had. Now the Stuart 5 looking for the close range engagement. This is where the Stuart 5s excel. The first shot being a weapon damage there is very deadly for player, and due to that having an attack move order, it's actually going to end up moving closer. Get shot to pieces. Flam Panzer is going to have to do a runner, and this is where you bring in some more infantry that can be supported by the Stuart 5 pushing back through this town. So Mosquito has been purchased and brought in. That's going to start strafing the Pak 40 here. These Mosquitoes, they do have 10 HE on their machine guns, which is pretty damn good. And therefore the suppression onto the Pak 40 is pretty high, but not high enough to stop that Stuart from dying. Maybe high enough to allow the Cromwell 6 to engage though. So players now investing into Panzer 4s. Panzer 4s, they deal with the closer engagements better than other Panzer 4s. The Panzer 4H specifically. But with there being a Cromwell 7, a new Cromwell 7 joining the troops in the town, I feel like this Panzer 4H is going to have a hard time, because this Cromwell 5 is also a problem as well. The Cromwell 6 push here alongside this infantry has a long way to go. Player's just got to get this Jagdpanzer into an ideal location, because that can cover 1,200 meter range engagements very well in Phase B, due to Ddraig having to rely on Achilles if he wants to basically deal with enemy tanks at 1,200 meter range. And the thing is with Achilles is they are more or less hard countered by Jagdpanzers, because it's 16 AP versus 14 front armor, so the Jagdpanzer can pretty much ignore the Achilles, whilst the Achilles has to back off from the Jagdpanzer due to 14 or 12 AP, sorry, versus I think 8 front armor of the Achilles. But a nice kill there for the Jagdpanzer, takes out the auto car. We also saw the ME-109 take out a Mosquito. On this bottom side, Pak 40 is under pressure, but the M5 half-track forced back. That bottom side is looking pretty weak for player, honestly. Field engineers do manage to help take out that half-track before they die. I think the Cromwell 7 was credited the kill though. Now we're going to be seeing an engagement between the Panzer 4 and the Cromwell 7. Panzer 4 gets track well destroyed. Cromwell 7 takes an ammo storage hit. So the Cromwell 7 was forced to reset its aim, whilst the Panzer 4 maintained its aim but has lost its mobility. And that is not good actually for this Befehl Panzer 4, because even if he does bring in a supply here to fix this up, currently it's a completely sitting duck to appear from one of these motorized rifle squads, and I'm pretty sure that Ddraig will be hunting for this kill, and doesn't have to get too close to make it happen, but does have to make sure he remains out of line of sight, because in this case, a pretty big mistake there. Gonna lose these motorized rifles for free. Meanwhile in the mid, Jagdpanzer still being annoying. Pak 40 is still alive and hasn't been dealt with by the Cromwell 6. Both his portees on the field, going to try and stop that half-track from finding a surrender, but that's still going to occur. How can Ddraig deal with his Panzer 4? Looks like he's going to go for a two-pronged Stuart 5 attack. But I don't think he should allow a second shot onto the stamed Stuart 5. Doesn't look like he's going to, as the second shot from the Stuart 5 finds the kill. And that's the Panzer 4 down. So, fascinating how Ddraig has managed to clean up the early aggression that the 116th had made, and brought it back to a point where he's actually in the lead, a full +1. And I think it just comes down to, you know, finding the flanks onto the Panzer 3s and picking up those kills. One of them was quite simple. Of course, the auto car M3 just took one shot and killed one. But in general, I think Ddraig has really done a good job of taking advantage of those situations, and has managed to make ground back in what looked like a pretty hard situation. So the counter to the 7th Armoured did work in the early game, but now we're well into the late game, and this is where things could go downhill if player is not too careful, because if he doesn't find anything to counter a 3-star Firefly, then things get difficult, especially in the open ground. And currently at close range in the town, these Stuart 5s are still dominating. He hasn't really killed enough of them, and I think that's mainly because Ddraig hasn't put all his eggs in one basket when it comes to the Stuart 5 recons. Well, Panzer 4H has turned up. That's going to be engaging the Cromwell 7. Does have a chance to get a penetrating hit onto a Cromwell 7, but so does the Cromwell 7 onto the Panzer 4, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Bail out with the first shot. Ddraig left in a really awkward position, but as we can see, the +1 is only enough for a draw. So either Ddraig's going to have to find a +2 to win, or player is going to have to stop Ddraig's push. So far, takes out infantry down on the bottom side, gives himself some territory back on the side of player. Panzerwerfer was used to hit the reinforcements heading from the town. Was successful in holding back the Cromwell 7, but not the infantry in the Stuart 5. So this Stuart 5 just going ham. Will eventually find line of sight into the Flam Panzer, and this is slowly but surely counting towards 58%. Now we see a +2. Ddraig will win the game in 16 minutes and 55 seconds if he keeps this up. This half track making a nice salient. Rifles getting pinned down by Panzergrens. Stuart 5 going to be getting involved, but this Flam Panzer still hidden. Very impressive. Jagdpanzer takes out another half track. One thing that Ddraig definitely cannot afford to do is ignore this Jagdpanzer. There's a lot of potential for damage here, and does recognise that. Just probably going to move the Stuart 5 closer. Closer would be better, because then as soon as this Jagdpanzer shows sidearm, you just pop out and shoot it, due to the aim time being actually pretty damn fast. Flam Panzer does eventually go down. Up on this top side, half track trying to break through. Might just end up getting itself killed by the 259 in the end. The Panzer 4. It's got so much time to win this engagement. It does force back the Cromwell. Can't find the second shot. He's actually out of line of sight. That is tragic, because now if he moves into line of sight, there's a new Cromwell 7 on the horizon. Never mind, finds the shot anyway, manages to back off before the second Cromwell 7 gets involved. Meanwhile, Stuart 5 and rifles have cleaned out the MG on this top side, giving Ddraig that little bit more ground. Panzer 4, once again, going to be engaging the Cromwell 7, but it actually turns out that the MU-109 G2 BR-21 rocketed and killed the tank in that run. Fell Panzer 4 engaging infantry on the top side. The MG is still holding strong, but the territory has fallen in favour of Ddraig. Achilles looks like it internal fragmented the Jagdpanzer, since it's completely out of ammunition, and that means there's potential for the Achilles to get very aggressive, and I think that's what Ddraig's trying to do here in the centre. He's going to use his motorised rifle to probe out the tree line and then allow the Achilles to drive round it and engage the Jagdpanzer at max range. On the side of Ddraig on the top side, done well to clean out the majority of the extra infantry. Honestly, a lot of the time what can happen is the Festung, not the Festung, the 116th can lack infantry availability, and so Ddraig sort of just wiping that out. He's done pretty well to do so. And now you can see player's going to have to back off and preserve his Panzer Grenadiers in order to continue to fight in this game, because at the end of the day, like moving into the late game, player's going to have to just have as many support units as he needs to make this work. And if there's no infantry amongst that, the game will just fall apart. But at this moment in time, Ddraig has such an initiative. It is unbelievable. He's got the Firefly 5C coming onto the field, the 2-star variant. That is going to be countered by a Panther G, but it really does depend where this Panther G ends up. It is sort of heading towards the location where the Jagdpanzer 4 was, but the Jagdpanzer managed to back off. On this bottom side, Cromwell 6 is potentially going to take out the Pack 40. It does, with the fire position command. Meanwhile, on this top side, can the Stuart 5 be taken out by the Panzer 4? What he's looking for. Cromwell 4 coming into line of sight. We'll look for the engagement. 2-star Cromwell 4. Going to miss its first shot. Panzer IV misses its shot. Plenty of time here for Ddraig to get another shot off first. Finds the kill. Lovely stuff. With that Panzer IV dead, a lot of this infantry is relatively unsupported, especially with the Panther G heading towards the middle of the map. And that is something that Ddraig can definitely take advantage of. If he gets his infantry to go aggressive now, he can find these Panzergrens and start killing them off. And just start chewing into that low infantry availability the 116th has. So Achilles, that's slowly rolling forwards. We'll have to be a little bit worried about an engagement with the Panther G, but the Firefly is hanging out nearby as well. But this one's going to get hit by the ME-109 G2 BR-21, actually getting strafed by the G6 R6 as well. Ddraig has got the Bofors-Portee, so looks like both of those aircraft are going to be forced back for the time being. Firefly, what is that aiming at? It's got a shot onto the Jagd Panzer. And whilst that's occurring, the Panther G surely going to be engaging the Achilles, but the Achilles had so much time on target, and that's going to be a track well destroy. That's going to be a Piat into the Panther G, and what do you know? A Piat kills the Panther G. Not something that player can afford at all. At all. Firefly winning this engagement versus the Jagd Panzer. Jagd Panzer is going to be forced to fall back. Absolutely insane there. Not a mistake I would see very often from player. Player is so damn good at this game, and that is very uncharacteristic of him, losing the Panther G like that. I think the whole idea was the Jagd Panzer would be distracting the Firefly, so the Panther could drive down and clean up the Achilles without having to go 2v1. And that could have worked if the Panther G had stopped sooner and got the kill, but having fast moved down this road, I think revealed the motorized rifles and then maybe kept moving because he was trying to get away from it. I'm not entirely sure. But either way, got caught out by the Piat there of the motorized rifles, and that is why it's so important to keep infantry nearby your tanks at almost all times, because it saves you in situations like that. For example, if the Achilles had missed and hadn't hit its first shot, the Panther could have very easily one-shot the Achilles, but the motorized rifles were there to save the day. Now the player has managed to get the Jagd Panzer to kill the Achilles, so that was really nice. Now player is waiting for the Panther G to come in to engage this Firefly 5C. I wouldn't recommend using a Jagd Panzer against a 2-star Firefly, honestly. Each to their own though. +3 in favour of Ddraig. Player's going to have to do something if he wants any chance of winning this game. He does manage to get a Panzerwerfer strike onto the Firefly. That may allow his Jagd Panzer to do the job, but the Jagd Panzer has been taken out by the Firefly before that barrage came in. Now we see Panzer Grenadiers pinning down motorized rifles, but on the top side, this is where it really matters. All those Panzer Grenadiers going down makes a huge difference, and it seems as though player, after what was an absolutely spectacular early game versus the 7th Armoured, has faltered moving into the late game. There is now over 1,500 points on the board for Ddraig. He's going to win in 5 minutes if it remains at a +3, and at the moment it currently looks like it is going to do so. There's a second Firefly on the way, and that will create a 2v1 versus this Panther G, which may just work out in Ddraig's favour. There is the opportunity here for player to really make a comeback in the late game. It does come down to this quite a bit. Whether or not this Panther G can find the kill onto the 3-star Fireflies. If it can, then hats off to player. We may see a breakthrough back on the bottom side here. But at the moment, things looking pretty stale, especially on the top as Ddraig has secured his position. And we're seeing units slowly but surely being finished off here. The 2-3-4-1 takes out the Bofors Portee. Player almost gets his Panther G on target. Actually just missed that shot though, that's unfortunate. Now going to be looking for another shot onto the Firefly. But he gets bailed out. And well, Firefly's done its job. That's going to be a crew knockout. This poor old Panther G just going to continue to take fire. Bounce coming in there once again from the Firefly. Another bounce, another bounce. Only a matter of time until that's a penetrating shot, and the player's not going to wait around to see it happen. As after 33 minutes and 22 seconds, Ddraig is victorious with the 7th Armoured. I think in the end, the 135 points per minute in Phase B made a huge difference, allowed Ddraig to recover from what was a pretty bad early game from him. The Panzer IIIs did get the better of him, and it just shows how effective the 116th can be against the 7th Armoured. It just doesn't really have the same staying power that the 7th Armoured has, and that definitely showed in this game as player slowly lost his infantry availability, and also like after this great start began to lose his Panzer IIIs, and after that those Stuarts could really do what they wanted, and you never want those Stuarts to do what they want. So in terms of kills, this autocar really saved the day, like it certainly did. Killed the Panzer III in the end. It also cleaned up the 259 and 232 before the Panzer III arrived, which meant that the Panzer III was fighting on 2-star veterancy when it otherwise would have been 3 due to the 232 still being up. But yeah, the Panzer III, well sorry, the autocar M3s and the Cromwell 5s maintained the defensive position on the bottom side against player, and that was really all he needed to do in order to end up bouncing back. Stuart 5 takes a Panzer III and the Panzer IV. This one taking out Panzer III and Panzer IV as well. Very similar kill lists actually there between the two Stuarts, and well, just killing one of these Panzers is paying itself off, but a Panzer IV as well, that's where the value for money comes from these units. In terms of losses, these Panzer IIIs did really well early on, but moving into the late game, really a severe lack of kills. There was the Jagdpanzer that got the Achilles, and it looks like this Befehl Panzer IV took out the Cromwell 5 and the ME-109 blew up the Cromwell 7. But other than that, this Panther G really didn't perform, and therefore after it went down, I don't think there was much chance for player to get back in this game, because Ddraig was still hitting a +3 on the board at that point. But in the end, a pretty fantastic game. I really enjoyed watching that. The fact that Ddraig got pushed all the way in and then managed to find his way all the way back to the side of player in order to win the game. What a great one. So Ddraig goes 1-up against player, and we'll have to wait and see if in the next game player can come back and defeat Ddraig. But until then, that's all. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.